Okay, so I'm thinking that we're gonna get started on our bellies this morning, and I had like a class where we're gonna fold forward quite a bit in mind, because this morning I'm thinking it's gonna be more about just finding space in the back of the body, and I definitely understand how like folding forward can be uncomfortable. So just make sure you have like a bunch of props around you. If like seated forward folds are not necessarily the most comfortable thing in your body, support can make all the difference with these. Yeah, so I'm thinking about getting started on our bellies, and maybe with like a little blanket roll underneath your hips. And you can turn on the playlist right away, because I think it's just perfectly an hour. So as you're getting yourself settled in, turning on those tunes, giving yourself a couple of super deep breaths just to punctuate the start of your practice here. Hey, Sandy. Great. And as you bring yourself down onto your belly, just thoughtfully and intentionally arrange your head, neck, and shoulders so that you can kind of feel effortless here. You can feel like maybe you are engaging in this practice of non-doing, just being. Giving yourself a little bit of a chance to just be here, just to breathe. No big agenda. Just for now, no points of action. Just you and your breath. And then I read this at last night's solstice celebration out here on the front lawn of my house. And I figured that, I mean, it's just beautiful, and I'm going to read it again. It's by Mary Oliver. It's a poem called The Sun. And she wrote, "Have you ever seen anything in your life more wonderful than the way the sun every evening, relaxed and easy, floats towards the horizon and into the clouds or the hills, or the rumpled sea and is gone, and how it slides again out of the blackness every morning on the other side of the world like a red flower streaming upward on its heavenly oils, say on a morning in early summer, at its perfect imperial distance. And have you ever felt for anything such wild love? Do you think there is anywhere in any language a word billowing enough for the pleasure that fills you as the sun reaches out, as it warms you, as you stand there empty-handed? Or have you too turned from this world? Or have you too gone crazy for power, for things?" Ooh, and this one I really love, because it kind of speaks to this, this idea of power, right? This idea of maybe becoming kind of like drunk with power and what that does to us. And forgetting that we need times of rest as well. We need times where we are not in search of that sort of energy, where we just let ourselves be and appreciate all the small things and the extraordinary things that happen around us every day. So this is a particularly potent time. We've got, number one, the summer solstice, the switch into fire season. We have a new moon, which is traditionally a time for setting intentions, We have a solar eclipse, this time where the moon kind of casts its shadow on the sun. So even at the height of fire season, we are reminded of the importance of the darkness, right? And when we're talking about yin and yang, the Chinese character for yin is, I think it translates to the shady side of the hill. And yang translates to the sunny side of the hill. So maybe taking a little bit of time to step out of that bright, blaring sunshine and into a little bit of that cooling shade allows us to, stop ourselves from overheating. And if you haven't yet turned your head in the other direction, I would recommend maybe doing that if you are turning your head to one side or the other. And let's just sit and observe these next 10 breaths or so. Good. Stepping out of the sunny side and into the shade doesn't mean the sun has gone anywhere. It just means that for now we are choosing to cool ourselves. Good. A few more breaths. Good. One more big inhale. Feel the back of the body rise up. Your exhale just leaves you. Good. And then let's take the hands, place them palms down underneath the shoulders, and press yourself back into child's pose. And as you find your child's pose, I just want to invite you to maybe bring something like a block underneath your forehead so that the ridge of the block can kind of hit that space just in between the eyebrows and place a little bit of pressure on it. Good, yeah, and as you rock your head from side to side here, on that block or the backs of your hands, you notice the way your jaw feels. Notice what your shoulders are doing. Good, notice how you're breathing. Good. Imagine that breath can cool you down. And there is a difference between tending your internal fire and letting it rage, right? It takes practice to kind of look and see, to feel what's happening there. And take another 5 deep breaths here in your child's pose, maybe with that super slow rock, your head side to side. Good. One more breath. Great, and then from your child's pose, let's shift on up onto hands and knees. And as you find hands and knees, let's think about rounding the back a whole lot for a couple of breaths. Really let the head drop down. Let it be nice and heavy. Let the middle of the back lift up towards the ceiling. Your tailbone points down towards the floor. Good, and then any way that you like to snake your spine around, go ahead and move it around, maybe cats and cows. Maybe you want to like hammock the belly and swing it side to side to help release some of those tight attachments of the diaphragm to your rib cage. And when things get kind of tight down there, it can be hard to take a big breath. Good, so moving in a way that feels right. And try to keep this movement super slow and fluid and easygoing and just what you need. Good. Maybe just a couple more breaths. Great, and then we're going to take it back into a downward facing dog, which is a nice powerful stretch for the backs of your legs. And thinking about lifting up onto the toes really tall, and then settling those heels down just as close as they can go to the floor. The knees can be bent if you want, that's fine too. And just a couple of breaths like that, lifting up onto the toes, dropping those heels down. Yeah, a few at your own pace. Good, and then from here, let's start to walk the hands back towards the feet. And we're gonna settle into a standing forward fold. And I just want to invite you to maybe take some props underneath your hands so that you have that grounded connection here, the hands to something. And if your hands touch the floor, that's great. Maybe your hands are touching your own legs, and that's fine too. And then think about bringing the feet to a comfortable width. If the knees want to bend a whole lot, let them bend and just fold yourself forward here. Good, letting the head drop way down, back of the neck gets long. Good, and for a little bit of time here, I want to invite you to massage your own back or back of the neck. So you might take your hands around to your lower back and just kind of sweep your fingers from the sides of your spine out wide to the edges of your body. You might move up the spine just as far as your shoulders will allow you to. Good. If you're massaging the back of the neck, just thinking about moving the fingers up and down the spine, towards the base of the skull, and back towards the neck or the shoulders again. Good, and then eventually just let the arms hang down and be nice and heavy, and we'll take maybe 7 or 8 more breaths here in the standing forward fold. Good. One more deep breath right here. Great. And then we're going to walk our way back out into downward facing dog. Just one more time here. Just 1 or 2 breaths in your down dog. Okay, dropping your heels towards the floor. Maybe your feet are a little bit wider in this down dog. Good, and then let's bend the knees and bring them down to the floor. We're just gonna transition into a seated position where we're gonna spend like a good amount of time today. I find myself avoiding teaching seated forward folds a lot because it can be really tricky in the hips and the lower back. So hence the giant stack of blankets or pillows or whatever you have around you. It might be nice to take a little something underneath your seat, or maybe a lot of something underneath your seat. And we're gonna begin this morning with that left leg out nice and long and your right foot kind of tucked into the inside line of that left leg. Another nice thing you could do for yourself is place a little blanket roll underneath that left knee for some more support. Yeah, and then just allow the upper body to kind of drape forward here. If you've got a couple of blocks, you might rest your arms on the blocks, or maybe your head, if your head goes down that far. Sometimes I build like a little tower of props. In this case, I've got a block and a blanket. And we're just gonna give ourselves maybe 5 minutes in this shape. And just know that if things start to get really uncomfortable, it's okay to come out of it and then fold back into it. While in yin practice, we generally look for stillness, it's not always, it's not always a thing. Sometimes our bodies are like, nope. You feel free to ease in and out of it. And another thing that Mary Oliver poem really kind of highlights for me is that it is up to us, right, to maintain our own sense of wonder. And it's not something that this world really encourages, I think. Often we are asked to be realistic, or we're asked to just be productive, or work hard, or to think practically. Right? And let's see if just for now we can get rid of that idea of working hard and achieving something in our physical bodies. It starts here. How can we give ourselves some more time for just being? Good. Another 10 breaths or so right here. All of your attention poured into the back of that left leg. And whatever you're feeling in your low back, in your mid back, sending some healing breath in that direction. last deep breath right here. Alrighty, and then start to lift yourself on up and out of this. Just take a moment to do whatever feels appropriate. For me, it's all about bending that left leg. Maybe sitting up tall in the middle. Another nice thought is to take your hands back behind you, your fingertips pointing back, and rock your knees from side to side, or even lift those hips and take like a reverse tabletop if you're feeling like a little bit of yang energy, a little bit of that energy of activation after being so still and softening for so long. Good. And just a couple more breaths here in the middle. Great, and then let's sit up nice and tall again, and we'll either extend that right leg out long, or you could bend it and kind of fold it in. And we're gonna grab a hold of that left lower leg with our hand. So your right hand might be on the left foot, left hand on the left knee. Another option, if you have the space to do so, is to kind of tuck that left foot into your right elbow. I like to extend my leg long here because it provides kind of like a counterweight. And then we're just gonna do this little sway. Just a little something. Good. You can take notice of your hip, outer part of your hip, how things are feeling around your sitting bone, and you might even take these little circles as if you're kind of pressing that sitting bone into the floor, and you want to touch each little bit of surface area on the tip to the floor. Good, and then you can make those movements even more intense if you're feeling it by taking that left hand behind you and leaning back into the outside of your hip. Okay, underneath our glutes, we have a bunch of muscles, a bunch of little muscles that get really tight sometimes. It can cause us a whole lot of aggravation. And as you lean back, if you're leaning back, just kind of take notice of things feel tender. Maybe just rolling around a little bit on that. Good, a few more breaths. And then we're gonna come to sit up nice and tall. We're gonna let that left knee cross over the right. And you can keep that right leg extended out nice and long here. Maybe you're tucking that right foot back by the left hip. And here's where that stack of props might come in handy again. So thinking about just folding forward in this shape. Oh, yeah. I woke up yesterday and my lower back was feeling a little funky. Today this is really helpful. And take notice of your seat and really think about pressing it into the floor, kind of down and back as you fold forward and let that head drop nice and heavy. And why don't we just take a good, I'm gonna say 2 minutes or so here because we're gonna end up revisiting this again. Good. And so you know there's no wrong way to arrange the arms, but see if you can find a little bit of release on that inner edge of the shoulder blades. See if the back of the neck can release a little bit too. Your jaw, your tongue. And about 5 breaths more, folding forward. Good, and then start to lift yourself on up and out of this. Yeah, and once again, just unwind those legs. Doing the thing in the middle that feels best. So for me, I'm loving this today. The choice is yours. Maybe it's that reverse tabletop, or maybe you just want to sit up for a few moments in meditation and be still and take notice and really kind of hone in on how the hips and the low back feel. Oh yeah, rolling under your back, knees to chest could be nice, especially after all this sitting up. Yeah, good. Great, a few more breaths in the middle. Great. Great, and then let's sit up nice and tall again and just prepare for the other side. So we're gonna send that right leg out nice and long and pull the left foot to the inside line of the right leg. And then just work to support yourself here, maybe bringing that rolled up blanket underneath that right knee. If the back of the leg feels a little tense this morning, or every morning, you know. And then that prop stack, whatever works for you, so that you can fold forward and feel supported. There have been times where practicing this, it's like a huge stack of bolsters to fold forward onto because my low back needed a lot of support. Good, couch cushions, whatever's around. Good, and take your time to ease into this. It's not about finding the biggest stretch right out of the gate. Sometimes our breath can help us to get a little bit deeper into that pose. Great. Great. So breaths as big as you can make them at first. Really letting yourself fill up and empty out. This miracle of the breath. Good. And at first being pretty intentional about the breathing, but eventually just allowing the breath to become its own thing, right? Just taking time to sit back and observe yourself. Ugh. Those exhales are leaving your mouth with a little bit of the sound. Take maybe 7 or 8 more breaths here. Good, and then from here, begin to lift yourself on up and out of this. And a couple of thoughts for this in-between thing here. Again, you might take the hands behind you, windshield wiper the knees. You might decide to take the soles of both of the feet to the floor and just kind of fold forward onto yourself, dropping your eye sockets down into your kneecaps or in that direction. And then also there's the yang activity, which would be a bow pose. So just doing the thing that feels like the right thing for you. Yeah, rolling on your back, rolling around, whatever works. We'll take 5 breaths or so. Great, and then from here, let's extend that left leg out long, and we're gonna take that little rock around on the right hip. So your hands grabbing a hold of the knee and the foot, or maybe you're hooking that right foot into your left elbow if that feels like a good thing in your body. Good, and just taking some time to, like at first, just slither around in a way that feels kind of like right in your body. It might just be a gentle rock side to side. And eventually, maybe making these circles, getting all around the sitting bone. Good. Maybe taking another 5 breaths or so here with some circles, some side to side rocking. Great. Yeah, and then let's take that right hand behind us and just kind of rock back in space here. Notice what the back of the hip feels like. Maybe it's feeling funky today. Maybe it feels good to do this. Good, just a couple more breaths. Great, and then coming on out of this, we're gonna cross that right knee on top of the left knee, and if you wanna slide that left foot back towards the right hip, that's great too. Maybe you're sitting way up onto a bunch of blankets. Yeah, let's take some time to fold forward into this one. So bringing your little mountain of props in front of you so that maybe your head can rest down on something or your forearms. Good, think about pressing those sitting bones down into the floor here. And take notice of that lower back. Good, a few big breaths just to get started in this pose. Watching the way the breath moves your body. Good, just another 5 breaths or so, folding forward here. And then lift yourself back up, moving kind of slowly. Great. From here, let's take the soles of the feet together and the knees out wide. And I'm going to suggest a little bit of support underneath the knees. If you've got a couple of blankets to tuck under there or a couple of blocks, that might be a good thing. Great. And at first, we're just going to fold forward from here, letting the head kind of drop down towards the feet. You can turn this into like a more active pose if you want to by grabbing a hold of your toes and kind of drawing yourself forward while pressing your sitting bones back and down. Or this can just be super, super yin, draping the upper body forward, letting the head hang heavy, letting that back round. Good, and for a little while here, it might be nice to kind of check in with the contents of your mind. And things feel kind of crunched up in there. Are they a little bit more spacious this morning? Maybe there's no wrong way to be. The meditative component of this practice is just about us being aware of it all, right? And from a little bit of a distance. And so taking time to just casually observe yourself in this kind-hearted way. Like, oh, there I am. That's what I'm thinking about. Okay, just another 3 breaths or so, folding forward through the center here. Good, and then start to sit yourself up. Keep the legs just as they are, but take the hands behind you, fingertips pointing back, and then think about drawing the shoulder blades in towards each other and in towards the spine. The heart lifts a little bit, just this like gentle back bend. If it feels okay to drop the head back, go ahead and drop it back, or you can continue to look forward. Good. Think about the belly button kind of lifting up, pressing out. Good, and then we'll sit up nice and tall and take that left hand onto the right knee and the right hand onto the left knee. Yeah. And then maybe there's a little fold forward here for you. And it doesn't matter how far forward you fold or if you even fold forward. The point is just to find a little bit of space in between the shoulder blades. And then maybe, again, this slow rocking motion from side to side here. Good. Okay, we'll just take a few big breaths with the arms crossed like this. Beautiful, and then let's cross the arms in the other direction. Yeah, the other arm on top this time. Fold yourself in again. And you might choose to take that rocking motion from side to side again, or maybe you just want to like fold in and find a little bit of stillness, and that's great too. I'm putting a tall block on my feet and seeing if I can kind of touch my forehead down. Good, and then come on up and out of this, and oh my gosh, it's time for our backs. So let's roll down onto our backs, hooray! Those seated forward folds are no joke. They are no joke. They require so much of us. So as you find your back, just stretch out, right? Stretch the arms out, open the feet up nice and wide. Stretch your limbs, maybe rotate the wrists, rotate the ankles, these parts of our body that we kind of overlook sometimes, but are home to so many vital points, so many pressure points. Good. Great, and then let's take a moment to just notice the back of the body touching down to the floor. Really anchored through the back body. Rising through the front body. Great, yeah. And then let's take a happy baby pose. Good old happy baby. Drawing the knees wide to frame the chest and reaching for the outer edges of the feet or your toes or the backs of the thighs. Yeah, nice. Yeah, and just a little fun rock around on your back. And for me, this is usually a pretty telling pose. And where am I hanging on to this tension? What's going on there? So taking care to notice all the parts of your back, from the lowest parts down around your pelvis, up through the middle, yeah, the area around your shoulder blades and just north of that. Good, and notice the back of the neck too, and think about gently drawing the chin in towards the throat. That's called Jalandhara Bandha, or throat lock. Good, a really nice way to find space in the back of the neck. Ease some tension at the base of the skull. Good. Let's take another, why don't we call it 10 breaths here. Great. Great, and then from here, let's keep hold of that right foot or leg and extend that left leg long on the mat, or place the sole of the left foot on the floor with the knee pointing up if extending that left leg long feels funky. And now we're just gonna find some space through the back of that right leg. So go ahead and just take your hands and wrap them around somewhere on the back of that right leg. It could be down on your hamstrings, or maybe you're sliding your hands a little bit higher, like up towards the calf or the ankle. And just as we massaged our backs before, maybe a little calf massage for yourself if your hands reach that far up, or a nice hamstring massage, back of the knee massage. And don't forget about your ankle rotations. Rolling that ankle around can really tell you things about the back of the leg, right? How things feel there. Deep point and flex of the foot. And just another thought, if you wanted to throw a little bit of an active component into this pose, you could pick up your head and shoulders off of the floor and bring your forehead up towards your knee or your shin. You are practicing this active component. Make sure that your face is kind of relaxed though. Good, a couple more breaths. Great, if you've lifted the head and shoulders, go ahead and set them back down. Let's bend that left knee, bring it to the floor, and then take the sole of the right foot down next to it. We're just gonna shift the hips off to the right and drop the knees over to the left for your spinal twist. Good, and take notice of how things are feeling in your low and mid back. If things are a little bit tense there, place something in between your knees for sure. It's a nice way to just create a little more space. Good, and then just explore the depth of your breathing here. And allowing yourself to kind of fine-tune your attention to the miracle that is your breath. Nice. Good, 3 more breaths. Great, and then as you come back through to the middle, let's take a little something underneath our pelvis. Okay, so I've got like a blanket that I folded into something kind of brick-like here. And as you take that under your pelvis, then draw your knees in towards your chest again. So this is kind of like happy baby, but just with a little bit more of like a lumbar spine traction here. A little bit more of a stretch of those muscles at the lower back. A little more space for those intervertebral discs. Good, and you might rock a little bit from side to side here if that works for you, or maybe you're just holding still. And I also wanted to throw out either Lights Up the Invisible Wall or a snail pose, which is where you kind of lengthen the legs and you sort of drop your toes down towards your head or past your head. And this can be done with your feet kind of close together or your feet kind of wide too. So playing with the width of the feet. Good, to find the thing that feels like it's just the thing for you. Good, and then from here, let's bring the soles of the feet back down to the floor and just leave the hips up on this block or your blanket or whatever is here just for a moment or two. Kind of letting things reset a little bit. Good, and then let's remove that item from underneath your pelvis. And you can keep the sole of the right foot here on the floor as you send that left leg up, or maybe you're extending that right leg out nice and long. Good, thinking about taking your hands to the back of your leg and just maybe a little massage back there if that feels like the right thing for you to do this morning. A little squeeze of the calves, your Achilles maybe. Wherever your hands will reach to, just extending yourself a little bit of this loving touch. I think the backs of our legs are some of the toughest parts of our body. They kind of have to be. You know, just from a functional perspective, there's nothing wrong with having some tightness in the backs of the legs. Good, but bringing some awareness. Yeah, maybe a little bit of rocking movement too of that left leg, if that feels like the thing. Ankle rotations. Good. If you want to bring in that active component, think about lifting the head and the shoulders up, your knee and your forehead moving towards each other a little bit. Good, and see if you can soften your cheeks here, the corners of your eyes if you've lifted up. Good, if you've lifted the head and shoulders, go ahead and set them back down again. And then we'll all bend that left knee and place the sole of the foot on the floor. Bring that right foot next to it. Let's pick up the hips and scoot them off to the left. And drop the knees over to the right. Again, finding that little bit of support if your lower back is calling for it or if your mid back is calling for it. Good, and then your deep, deep breath here. Good, about 5 breaths more on the side of the twist. Great, and then it's your choice for how you'd like to finish. You might roll onto your back for a nice shavasana, or maybe you want to roll over to your side and kind of curl up in a fetal position, taking a little blanket, balling it up underneath your head as a pillow. Good, or anything will do, really. The choice is always yours for what you need at the end of your practice. Maybe it's seated meditation, lying in your belly. As you settle into this final pose, just extending yourself a little bit of gratitude and thankfulness for arriving at your practice this morning. Giving yourself space to breathe, and space to feel, and a little bit of space to process, and to unclench. Breathing into your body. This vessel that carries you through this life. Breathing not only for yourself, but for those around you. Remembering that our actions create a ripple effect. And you might think for a few moments about how you want to approach the rest of your day, what you need, what work there is to be done, what we need. Knowing that moving from this place of rest, you are better equipped to serve, right? Knowing that with this rest, we can then take action in a little bit more of a balanced state. So moving from yin, that shaded side of the hill, back to yang, that sunny side of the hill. And waking ourselves up here with some movement, some kind of movement that makes sense to your body on this morning. Yeah, any old thing will do. And we're actually gonna finish up on our feet, I think. On our feet for an invigorating breath. Breath of joy. Yeah, time for some breath of joy. So take your time to come stand up. And I'm just gonna demonstrate one of these guys for y'all. All right, so it's a pretty big amount of inhaling. We're gonna inhale 3 times and then exhale once. There are 2 ways to do it. The first way involves just standing up nice and tall, and the second way involves a forward fold. So here's an example of the first. It's an inhale, 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 exhale. All right, the second breath is inhale, 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 exhale. All right, so a couple of these breaths at your pace. Good, and then standing still in your mountain pose, your feet on the floor. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. All right, going out and moving mountains. I'm so glad you're all here with me this morning. Happy solstice, happy summer, happy new moon. Oh, and all that good stuff. Yeah. Feel free to turn on your mic if you want to chat at all.